class time.
Thanks for coming back, Mom.
Thank you for coming back.
If this is the first time that you are joining us, you should go back. I'll put a link to watch our first video where I do an introduction of who this is. But in case you're brand new and you're not going to go back, this is my mom, not my friend.
Correct. You
who
got it.
is a licensed clinical social worker.
Exactly.
And today we're going to be talking about
Anxiety.
anxiety. And we decided to do this topic way before the world fell into a collective case of anxiety.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about anxiety.
We are.
Before we get into those questions, I'm going to follow a similar format as last time.
Okay.
Ask you a few quick, rapid response questions.
Sure.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your anxiety today?
Well, it was pretty low until we were about to start filming, and then it creeped up a little bit, and then I was like, get it out.
So what was that at, like a...
4-ish?
Oh, that's not bad.
Well, for me, it's like, you know.
Well, because, yeah, you've learned a lot about how to regulate, which I'll tell you guys in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What's the dumbest way you've ever been injured?
Oh, walking in the park.
That
So
is my
dumb.
dad laughing. And you
On
rolled
my
your
birthday.
ankle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rolled my ankle and I heard it go pop, pop, pop. It was so ridiculous because I put my foot like halfway on the paved area and the grass area. That was
remember,
the
I was in
dumbest
California
injury.
or something. I don't think I was home when it happened. Like I was traveling.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was the dumbest injury. Yes.
Do you know what mine's gonna be?
What?
I tripped I was on a down escalator and I turned around to go
Oh.
up and I tripped and ended up having to get 9 stitches in my knee, and that was truly the dumbest injury I've ever sustained. There's a story there. It's not as funny,
No.
but in retrospect.
I feel triggered.
Okay, speaking of anxiety.
Well, I just want to say the fact that we got so many questions about anxiety
Yeah.
speaks to how common and pervasive it is. These are my insights and what I've found useful for myself and for those that I serve. And so please take it if it lands on you in a helpful way.
Mm-hmm.
And always, always seek professional help when you feel you're needing it.
Anxiety is like one of those words that's kind of become a buzzword, and it seems to mean a lot of things and kind of nothing as well. So can you talk briefly maybe about what anxiety is and when it presents itself?
So anxiety typically is a normal emotion that is part of having this human experience. And the origins of anxiety is that it helps us to survive. It's a very useful and helpful emotion when it's regulated. When it's dysregulated, it becomes a disorder. Okay?
Okay.
And there's 7 different anxiety disorders. And so typically when anxiety becomes sort of an obstacle to engaging in life in a regular fashion, that's usually when someone will go in and see a medical professional and asking for assistance.
Okay.
And anxiety is emotional as well as physical. You feel it in your body. And at times it can be really, really painful feeling the anxiety in one's body. For example, like if it gets to the point of having a panic attack, one can actually feel like they can't breathe anymore, they're going to pass out, they feel this sense of I'm going to die, and it can happen in the middle of a grocery store.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason for when it happens, and that can be really scary. And it does not kill.
Yeah.
Even though it feels like this is going to kill me, it doesn't actually kill. It does have really uncomfortable side effects. And when dealt with appropriately, can come to a place where it becomes manageable.
Like,
Just
so,
FYI, I don't know what these questions are that Maryam is going to be sharing.
and I wrote all of them down in hopes that today when I would look at it, it would just come to me like, okay, this is the question.
Okay.
But it's still really, every time I look at them, it's really hard because I want to answer all of them. Okay, so the first question that let's do is, what happens in the body when you have a panic attack?
Physically.
Physically.
The amygdala, which is referred to as the reptilian brain, that's our most primitive part of our brain, becomes really activated. You're laughing at that. You're not a reptile.
I was thinking about
The reptilians.
Sorry, it's another thing. You
Yeah,
can
totally
Google
another
that. You
thing.
can Google what reptilians are. Sorry, so it's the reptilian part of your brain.
Right, so there's a stimulus
Mm-hmm.
that causes us to feel the anxiety come on. So what happens is our amygdala gets activated, and we start spilling a lot of stress hormones. So what actually happens is the amygdala hijacks a lot of the blood flow in our body, so blood pressure tends to drop. And then other parts of our brain are kind of off limits.
Yeah.
You can't think straight, you don't see clearly, you become like sort of clouded. And then what happens with that surge of stress hormones in your body, you get a lot of energy. So that's how people can actually, for example, in an accident, lift a car. Right? And people think, how did that person do that? They did it because they were in that fight or flight or freeze mode. Okay? So that's physically, kind of in a nutshell, what happens in the body.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I maybe give a little technique?
I was going to say that was the follow-up question is like,
Okay.
What can you do in that moment?
So in that moment, one very quick physical technique is putting one hand, your palm, on your forehead, and the other one, like in the base of your neck,
back here.
right? Because that's where the amygdala resides, in the back. And so it's like making contact with your brain. This one is saying to the frontal cortex, please come on board. And this hand is trying to calm. Okay, this is just one quick physical technique. And I'll show you some other ones.
Great. That's helpful. I've never seen that one before.
Oh, I'm not a good mom then. I'm not showing you how to do this.
You've shown me a lot of other techniques and taught me a lot of other things. So how do you know when you need professional or medical help for anxiety?
When it starts getting in your way. When it starts interfering with your daily activity is the time then that you know it's most likely help time.
And what does that mean? Because I think some people also might struggle to say, well, okay, wait, is it in my way? Is it not in my way?
Well, for example, not being able to get to work.
Yeah.
Or once you're at work, you're preoccupied with these physical sensations and thoughts that are taking you away from the task that you're meant to be engaging in. So those are the things. Or you notice that, you used to enjoy going out and now you're saying, oh, I don't think I want to go out. You know, things that were normally part of your routine that become disrupted because of it. Yeah.
Does anxiety get better as you get older? Statistically speaking, I mean. This person says, I need some hope, LOL.
So I think that question, it brings me back to when I hear somebody saying, things will get better with time. Time doesn't take care of what we want it to take care of. Time gives us the opportunity to take care and attend to what needs to be tended to.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely, anxiety can get better with age if and when those years were used to take care of the anxiety, whether it was seeking professional help, engaging in practices that are helpful to calm the brain. This is why we keep, professionals are saying, meditate.
Yeah.
It's been shown scientifically that meditation calms those areas of the brain that cause the anxiety, right? And the more you train it in meditation, the more then it's accessible to you when you need that calmness. That's why we practice. I know from personal experience, because 10 years ago, I was highly anxious. And I didn't know what it was. But I felt these physical sensations in my body, and that's when I went to see my doctor. I thought it was something related to my heart, and she then told me what it was. Actually, it's more than 10 years ago, probably.
Yeah,
now,
I was going to say, I think
yeah,
it's
like
15.
And that's when I started my own therapeutic process. And it's been extremely helpful, along with all the practices that I've learned to engage in along the way. Yes, so to answer that question, yes, anxiety does get better as you get older if you use the time to help calm your brain. And there is hope, absolutely.
What should you look for in a therapist when getting help or when seeking help for anxiety?
This question, I think, is the same as if someone is asking, what should I look for, if I am feeling depression, or if I'm... It's not so specific about what you're going in to therapy for. It's most important, first of all, finding a friend or someone that you trust that can recommend perhaps a therapist that they have been to. Always word of mouth is helpful.
Yeah.
Right? Second, this is what I say to new clients that come in. You're coming in to interview me and to get a sense of how I work. I don't need to be a specialist in everything that walks through my door. So it doesn't have to be someone who specializes only in anxiety or in depression. Sometimes it helps to have a certificate or some sort of focus, but it's not necessary. It's absolutely not necessary. What's necessary is someone who's really, this is what I say, someone who's done their own work and willing to go with you as a client in places that are dark and scary, which anxiety can be.
Yeah.
Right? And I highly encourage you, go meet the therapist, speak with them, trust your gut, how you feel while you're sitting with this person. It's really important that you feel this is workable. I can work with you. Or no, trust that. And move and find someone else.
Yeah.
Just because someone has the initials doesn't mean that they're a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to that point, and this isn't a question that somebody submitted, but that I think I hear a lot is particularly young Muslims that want to look specifically for a Muslim therapist. What are your thoughts around that?
If it is so important to you that you only see a Muslim therapist, then there's no way getting around that. Because it'll be an obstacle that you're sitting with constantly, right? It's going to be a barrier for you to receive the skills and the knowledge and the help. If you're sitting, I really need to be with a Muslim therapist.
Yeah.
Yes. I can tell you that I've had brilliant therapists. It's important for me that faith was part of their practice. It didn't matter what faith they came from. They understood how faith was important to me and what role did faith play in my life. And that was most important for me.
Yeah.
Because there's quite a few, we were taught in school, spirituality and religion stays out the door. I was like, sorry, can't do that. Right? And I have plenty of clients that are not Muslim. And I respect whatever faith tradition they come from or not. Yeah.
Awesome. How do I work on talking to people without being awkward or overthinking every move? And also, manage the physical symptoms that can come up when you're having social anxiety, whether it's sweating or difficulty speaking.
Yeah. What comes up is, for me, as I'm thinking of this question, is I'd be really curious to find out what sort of conversation are you having with yourself before entering into a social setting.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that's where everything starts.
Yeah.
Are you concerned with how you're going to speak? Are you telling yourself unsupportive comments, phrases about your outfit, about, maybe some acne that you're having on your face? Are you, my beloved teacher would say, we are the biggest panic makers because of what we tell ourselves. Right? So we enter into these spaces already feeling quite anxious.
Yeah.
And then it becomes really, really difficult to maintain contact with someone else in a calm fashion. So how to turn that around? Notice what you're saying to yourself before you go to that party, before you go out to dinner. And change it around.
Yeah.
To become more supportive language. Close to 95% of the time, you're projecting how you're feeling about you onto someone else. So then you start feeling and thinking that this is how they're looking at you, exactly how you're perceiving. So it becomes like sort of that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So I'm walking around thinking, I'm really stupid, or I can't believe I put this outfit on today, or I look really ugly. They must think I'm really, really, just whatever it is. It's not true. And then the physical aspects of it will also be supported when you walk in being fully supported by you. And then the other thing is honor where you're at, respect where you're at. If you need to step out and take a break, and regroup and reconnect with you so that you can go back and reconnect with someone else in a party, in a restaurant, go to the bathroom. Step outside. Rather than beating yourself up.
Yeah, in the moment. And then
you're going to be worse.
Just spiral even more.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many different breath techniques, and that's another thing you can look up on YouTube. There's so many. The one that is really calming is like taking count to 4 in your inhale through your nose, and a count of 8 through an exhale through your nose as well. That calms your system as well. And the reason we say breathe is so that you can actually bring oxygen back to your brain. Okay? There's a reason physiologically we do that. So step outside and take some calming breaths.
This first one is like making me teary-eyed to read. But they said, I don't know how to handle the death of my father. Thinking of him gives me anxiety. What can I do? I guess firstly just sending lots of
love and
support
to you, whoever you are. I wish I could ask. I'm curious. When you think of him, what is the anxiety? Is it more of feeling the loss? That's what I'm thinking it's about. That the anxiety is about the grief and needing to grieve the process of your father's loss. And this is when we say it's sometimes helpful to have someone sit with you in that. That you do not have to do this alone. You don't have to do this alone. It's helpful to have someone be with you in those moments and those times. We weren't meant to do any of this alone. Right? Also, this may be kind of not such typical advice, but I would say ask your Father to support you as well during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you deal with people who trigger your anxiety?
This is going to sound strange. I thank them. I'm not going to put myself on purpose in a situation that I know is going to provoke my anxiety.
Right.
Right? But if it comes that I'm there,
right,
and I'm provoked,
so
then
you're
I'm
not
going
like
to
you're
take
not
care.
going seeking out problems that you can start saying thank you to
Goodness,
people
no.
for provoking your.
No. I stay away.
Yeah. So don't like seek out
No,
the people that
that's
trigger
not-
you also so you can thank them. This is like a
But when I am
organic
triggered,
process.
it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
here's some information for me. What's going on, Intissar? What happened? What just, shot that anxiety up for you? And come back to me. Rather than put focus on the other person. So, bottom line, we are going to get triggered for the purpose of continuing to see what in us needs our compassionate holding, what in us needs to be taken care of. Don't, if you know that some situation or someone triggers you, don't put yourself in that place constantly. Listen to your own internal wisdom about that.
I have anxiety when speaking to new people or in a workplace where I'm the only POC.
Yeah. That's a whole level, a different level
Yeah.
of being the other. And
Right.
and all the work that it takes to be in settings like that when you are the one that is different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you're also, you're responding not only to whatever anxiety that you may have naturally in other settings, but also it's a very real response to a very real dynamic that exists when you are the only person of color or when you're the only Black person.
It becomes really exacerbated by all these other layers that you're having to contend with. And then if on top of it, if it's not a very hospitable environment, well, of course your anxiety naturally is going to rise because you're now in survival mode, right? You're looking for that attack, the microaggressions or even the macroaggressions. I mean, you are being very vigilant to keep yourself safe and supported. So naturally you are going to feel that heightened anxiety, and it will only settle when you start feeling safe in that environment.
Oh, and that question ties back for me about the question about finding a therapist. And if you are POC or any sort of minority, you can also feel free to ask your therapist questions specific to what the experiences that you have are, to find out if this is a therapist who you feel that you can work with. And if you ask them about, a question like, how do you account for power dynamics that may exist in a world where I am a POC and white supremacy is real? And if the therapist is
like
totally just what are you talking about? Then they might not be the right one for you, but those are certainly questions that you can feel comfortable asking.
Absolutely.
And
those are important.
How do you deal with chronic anxiety if you're doing all the right things? Examples, therapy, gym, etc.
How to deal with it, and if you're still experiencing anxiety, sometimes medication can be helpful. It's personally not my number one go-to, but it is a tool that can be helpful if it works. So if you're working through your anxiety, medication sometimes can be helpful. I don't know if this person is already taking medication or not. Sometimes it's trying to find other tools. Sometimes it's, if something is not working, try something else.
How do you balance respecting culture and your own boundaries? And so to elaborate for context, maybe somebody doesn't quite understand that the point I think of this question is, how do you balance your maybe ethnic, cultural, or religious cultural norms with therapeutic practices and norms that you may be establishing in the therapy room?
I wish I had a specific formula of how to balance. Balance, first of all, is a very tricky question to ask. How do I achieve balance? From my perspective, it's not like we can get to this place. right?
Yeah.
Balance is like this, and then we have a moment of balance, and then it goes off
Yeah.
again, and then we come here again, and maybe, after doing this for some time, we can stay here a little longer.
And maybe the oscillations get less
Yes.
pronounced, but
Right.
there's still a
There's still that. Having gone through this experience myself personally, it's not an easy one, because your initial loyalties are to that culture that you were raised in, right? And so any time that you may choose anything that is different,
Yeah.
there is that internal struggle of, I'm not being loyal to that.
Yeah.
And then not being loyal to that is also, I'm not so much part of that. So there's
Right.
a loss associated with it as well. And as you go through that process, you're also getting a sense of what feels right for you. That may be part of, may not be part of the culture that you were raised in. And so this is then, yes, where respect plays a big, big role. I'm really big on respect. And needing to respect my own internal process.
Yeah.
Right? And respecting everyone else's process and how they see things and how they do things. And because I'm choosing differently does not mean I'm disrespecting you. They may see it as disrespect. But you need to stay firm in that I'm holding respect for myself and respect for you.
Is there any overall message or takeaway that you think somebody who's watching this video who's struggling with anxiety, what's the main, I guess, takeaway that you want for them to leave with today?
What first comes to mind is, do not fight it. The more you resist and fight, the more it will persist. Befriend your anxiety as much as you dislike it.
Baba's canceled.
Responded to you.
Befriend. Do not, that whatever you resist persists. You fight, you're going to lose energy in the fighting. Try as much as possible to befriend and get to know your anxiety and what it's about. A technique we use, where is the anxiety in your body? I'm feeling it in my chest. I'm feeling it in my gut. I'll say, okay, can you imagine taking it and letting it sit right next to you? And saying, tell me, what are you about? So now you get to kind of observe it, even though you might still be feeling it physically. But create some relationship with this anxiety so that it can quiet. Quiet. I often use this image of, if anybody has a child or seen a child, a 2-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, tugging at its parent's leg, right? Yelling, screaming. The more the parent says, shush, what does the child do?
Get louder.
Get louder. Anxiety's like that. You try to shush it, it's not going to shush. It's going to scream at you more. So I say, look at it. What do you want? What are you trying to tell me? Tell it, you're being painful to me. Have a conversation. Put it next to you. That's a wonderful technique. You're in the grocery store and you're starting to feel anxious. Okay, you can sit in the cart with me. Right. Go sit right here. Let me do my shopping. Okay? Instead of getting frustrated and mad and angry that you're feeling anxious. And so it's like workable. It's workable. And then again, I want to say, when all these tools are not enough, that's when medication can, for some, be helpful. And that is not a failure. If you had a headache, you would take Tylenol or Motrin or whatever. Similarly.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mommy. That one is going to be a hellish video to edit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. I'm the one who kept asking questions.